The Forum at 8 with Xolani Gwala.
It is 6.5 after 8. Once again, we say good morning. Welcome to the Forum at 8 here on SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader. Well, as I've been mentioning throughout the morning, yesterday we received a number of SMSs, people tipping us off and also asking us to look at the extent of the problem of schoolgirls who are made pregnant by principals and teachers in their school. In fact, just one of the SMSs that came through yesterday, I'm looking at it just now. It came through from the Northern Cape. Somebody called RLR, who said, schoolgirl made pregnant by principal and she's not the first. I read this and a couple more came through afterwards, and we read 2 or 3 of those SMSs, people who are prepared to talk about their particular schools in their areas, and they're saying that this is continuing. We've since then received a lot of reaction to our announcement earlier on that we'll be dealing with this issue, particularly on Facebook. Tsepo Mashile, for instance, says this is a very serious issue and that we must resolve it before it is too late. Mzwakile Tolintlantla says teachers in relationships with schoolgirls must be dismissed. However, same must apply to female teachers in love with schoolboys. This must become part of the teaching profession code of conduct. Letlatla Qini says we don't have enough measures to deal with this, as some of the parents prevent their children coming out in public. Here in Gwagwa, I know 3 of learners impregnated by teachers and principal. Nothing has been done by the department since last year, May. Mishek Mzalosa says we cannot allow such things to happen to our schools, which means learners are no longer safe. The principal must be fired and basic education must be able to look at this particular matter as soon as possible. Mvumelwano says we might not have enough measures, but at the same time the girls should also take responsibility. Muji Padilla says this is disgusting. We are sitting on a time bomb here and something has to be done now. Convictions of these teachers are low and investigations are prolonged. If you know of this vile behavior, contact Crime Line. We can't allow our children to be treated like this, says Muji Padilla. Right, then we'd like to hear your thoughts, your experiences of this matter. If perhaps you know similar things happening wherever you may be this morning, would like to talk to us also about the suggested solutions to this particular matter. What do you think then should be done? I'll be taking your emails as usual at gwalax@sabc.co.za, gwalax@sabc.co.za. Send us an SMS as well at 34701. 34701. Each SMS will cost you R2. We are available for you on Facebook as well, AM Live on SAFM. AM Live on SAFM. Let me quickly introduce my guests then for you this morning here on the program. I'm going to start with me in studio here. Matakanye is the General Secretary of the National Association of School Governing Bodies. A very good morning to you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Colin.
Thanks indeed. From our Pretoria studios, we are joined there by Mr. Themba Ndlovu. He is a communications manager at the South African Council of Educators. Mr. Ndlovu, good morning.
Good morning, Colin.
Thank you for your time. Yolisa Dwane is with Equal Education, joins us on the line. Yolisa, good morning.
Good morning, Kalani.
Hi, thank you very much for your time. Let me start in Pretoria then, Mr. Ndlovu. You've heard some of my Facebook comments that have come through so far already. People are worried that there aren't enough measures to curb this. Firstly, let's talk about the extent of the problem. How big is the problem?
Olani, let me indicate offhand that I think it's a disturbing phenomenon what we're picking up about this kind of activities by teachers against our learners. And one thing that we've realized as a council is that a lot of our people are getting to know that this should not be happening, and we're getting a lot of reports and complaints from society about these misdemeanors. So we can safely say at this stage is that it's a phenomenon that is bedeviling the teaching profession, which should not be happening. And with the reports that are filing in, as we continue the program, we'll be able to provide some statistics in terms of how much are we getting of complaints, and they would then be able to take it from there.
Please, let's start from there. Please just paint the picture for us, Mr. Ndlovu, if you may. Give us these statistics. How many complaints are you getting and where are they coming from?
Most probably, Olani, we're getting complaints from a lot of sources. In particular, we're getting complaints from parents. We're getting complaints from the Department of Education, who receive these complaints from whatever source. If I could indicate to the viewers, in terms of the statistics of last year, between April 1 and January 10 of this year, we received about 91 reported cases of sexual relations between teachers and learners. And of the 91 cases that we received, which were reported to SACE, council dealt with these cases, and 56 of those educators were struck off the roll, meaning those teachers cannot be part of the teaching profession. They cannot be allowed to teach our learners because their conduct has been detrimental to the profession. But also indicate that as I speak to you now, we have received more 50 new cases that have been reported to council, for which we are busy conducting investigations and most probably would be dealing with disciplinary hearings in this regard in due course.
So the 50 new cases are between January and now?
The 50 cases are between January and to date.
In a matter of 3 months, you've had 50 new cases of teachers having relations with schoolgirls.
That is correct. And I think that should be attributed to the fact that society is becoming aware that these cases need to be reported.
In terms of the investigations, how do you investigate this? What do you do?
In actual fact, on receipt of the complaint at the office, we then set up a team of investigators to go out and investigate the reality or the truthfulness of the complaint that we've received. And that team of investigators then would come back to the ethics committee to report on their findings for the ethics committee to be able to take a decision whether we need to go forward with charging the teacher, with conducting disciplinary hearings. But this team of investigators, normally what we do, we visit the school, conduct on-site investigation, interview all relevant parties who may be affected by such a report.
Now, between April and March, you've had 141 cases. Of these 141 cases, how many resulted in pregnancies?
I cannot be precise in terms of how many resulted in pregnancy, because the basis of our argument is that before it even leads to pregnancy, Kolani, the fact of the matter that relationship that exists between the teacher and a learner is an improper kind of relationship. And therefore, we cannot be at this stage be able to say to yourselves that these are the number of kids that got impregnated through these relationships. And we need to indicate that we're just talking about cases that have been brought to our attention.
And your sense is that there may be more cases?
My sense, Tolan, is that with communities and the problems that we may be able to raise later in this show, is that these cases are in existence out there. And it's only that there is lack of bravery on the part of society to come up to the fore and break the silence on these matters and be able to report them so that we deal with them holistically once and for all.
But let me ask you about the teachers when they come before SAYS. Is there anything that they tell you that you may tell us that may assist us in understanding why they end up engaging in these kind of relationships?
In most cases, Kolane, people who come before us would deny these allegations, but on the basis of proof and evidence that gets provided, we then get to punish them one way or the other. The sense that we are getting is that there is nothing coming out clearly on the part of teachers to say what could be the reason for teachers doing these things. But in some instances, I remember one teacher was saying, these kids are of my same age, they are my peer group. But council was adamant to say, for the mere fact that we have taken teaching as a profession, it can be correct for a teacher to have a relationship with a learner. And therefore, all I can say is that nothing clearly comes out of teachers to say, what could be the reasons, why are they practicing this kind of activities, and so on and so on.
Now, the issue of the same age and the age group that you've just raised then takes this matter up to the issue of statutory rape. Are there some teachers who are, by virtue of the fact that they sleep with children younger than, I think, 16, are then charged with statutory rape?
That's for sure. Because we then look at the situation as says where here is a teacher who's having a sexual relationship with a learner. We deal with our own processes in that regard. But where it borders on statutory rape, then the law enforcement agencies of our land are then brought into the picture so that they could then deal with the processes going forward. Because you are correct that we have situations where some teachers would sleep with kids as young as 14, 13 years old, and that is statutory rape. And therefore, we then report such matters to the law enforcement agencies so that they can deal with their own processes.
Let me bring in Mataganya here with me in studio. From the Association of School Governing Bodies point of view, what is your take on this, which obviously seems a terrible thing?
Kolani, good morning once again. Let me also greet the South Africans. It's really a shame. It's a shame in the sense that we thought these things could have been happening. And I believe these things are happening among the poor and the working class schools. And we thought that after 1994, these things would have diminished. But apparently they are still persisting. Hence we are saying it's a shame. A National Association of School Governing Bodies really, with strongest term, condemns this type of activities. In the sense that teachers are seen by the common law as loco parentis. Loco parentis simply means that teachers are parents to these children from as early as 7 o'clock up until the time these children have to go back home. So they are local parentis in that fashion. So I don't see the reason behind this that you entrust these children with the parents during the day. And these parents during the day, they abuse these very children. It's a shame. It's a shame. I think it's a shame. And the system, I think the system in this instance does not work properly. I don't believe then in the Educator Employment Act there is any section that gives them the right to do what they are doing. And also there is a section that talks about the misconduct. And I believe that's the area where it has to be strengthened. But Comrade Temba has just indicated here that South African Council of Educators regulate the behavior of teachers and regulate the profession. Now, I really don't understand why up to this time, then we are still discussing the question of sexual harassment done by adults to our children. So we are just calling upon, I think what will save this situation is parents. Parents must rise up. Rise up and deal with the situation, because really we have got system in this country, but those systems are no more working.
All right, I have a lot of SMSs that have come through here. I'm going to read these in a second, but I need to get a view first from Ms. Dwane. Maybe I should let me read one or two SMSs before I get your comment here, Ms. Dwane, because somebody says it would be interesting to know how many of these cases involve white or Indian girls or teachers. There's also another one that says if a teacher principal hurt my child, then the police will come and arrest me for murder. There's an SMS as well that says learners must stop wearing mini uniforms, stop seducing teachers because it is very hard to resist, says an SMS. There is somebody else who says this has been happening for some 40 years now. Nothing is being done. I'm actually a product of that. And then another SMS that says what bet that it is all happening in all black schools. Your comment here, Ms. Dwane?
It is happening in black schools, and it does happen in Indian and white schools as well. And it is a particular kind of a man or a woman that will do such a thing. And it is not your ordinary teacher who cares for kids and who's a human being that is a father figure, for example, a mother figure. It is someone who is, in a way, who is going to repeatedly do this, and even if he is being moved from one school to the next, they are going to continue. And the solution is to remove them completely out of schools. And we feel that there are cases that are being investigated. It takes long for those cases to be investigated, and you sometimes don't even know what is happening. But meanwhile, those teachers are still continuing teaching at schools, and as communities we don't see any movement. And I feel that it is when communities are going to be angry and frustrated and probably take the law into their hands if they don't see action from the part of the department and also from the part of the law enforcement. And there has been cases, and we believe that it is wrong for teachers, and it doesn't matter if a teacher is of the same age as the learner or closer to the age of the learner. The real problem, let alone the statutory rape, the other problem that is really wrong about teachers being involved with learners is the issue of the abuse of power. And in those cases, in some cases, teachers offer learners marks in exchange for sex or in exchange of entering into a relationship. But there are cases where in poor rural areas, communities don't feel that it is completely wrong for someone to have a relationship with an older man or an older a person who works or who earns money, because it is something that is going to be a source of income. And we want to say to communities that is completely wrong.
Yeah.
And I mean, teachers that do this and parents that help teachers to do this must be punished as well.
Okay. You know what? I'll open the lines here. 0891 104 208. 0891 104 208. Let's get people's views on these matters. Let's discuss this. How do we deal with it? What are your experiences? Of course, part of what is coming out this morning is that communities aren't coming forward with the information so that people such as SACE are able to deal with those teachers. Why is it that our communities aren't participating in as far as making sure that these things are dealt with once and for all? Let me read some emails, then I'll come back to the lines on 0891 104 208. Somebody says, no law which is effective in South Africa. No law enforcement, or rather the law enforcement is dragging its feet on such matters. Because these things happen everywhere, even where I come from, Nkomazi in Mpumalanga, it does happen. And no action is taken against the teachers. This is because teachers take advantage of young pupils. Imagine at a grade of 6, a pupil is impregnated by a teacher. In fact, we as public will take over the law if it continues without any action to these teachers. That's Mkhuleko Kuna, a University of Kwakwa. Another one says, the narrative of these despicable relationships is virtually almost always between male teachers, girl learners. Are there instances where the reverse has been reported, that i.e. female teacher, boy learner relationships? If yes, how prevalent is the latter phenomenon or not? In either case, lock up these people who abuse the trust placed by us parents and our children in the worst form. I'm going to ask Mr. Ndlovu to respond to whether or not there are these other phenomenons where female teachers and boy learners are in a relationship. He's going to respond to that in a second. Let me see some more emails. There is somebody who says, I would like to be anonymous if this email is read. That's acceptable with me. I'm a woman who once volunteered to teach a class of grade 11s in the Eastern Cape. I was absolutely shocked at what hit me while standing in front of class. The uniforms girls wear are too short. I could see thighs and underwear. If we take away all political correctness and be brutally honest, we have to admit that an ill-disciplined male teacher will be highly tempted every single day, and therefore some will succumb. This is true also about male learners. This is not just to justify rampant misbehavior by teachers, but schoolgirls can be protected by looking like schoolgirls. Anonymous sending us that email. Is that acceptable?
It's not acceptable.
What do you think about this?
No.
This email that I've just read.
Completely unacceptable for citizens of this country to be accepting like this kind of perception that if a woman is wearing a short skirt, then she deserves to be raped or she deserves to be harassed. And it is completely wrong. Learners, if they want to wear short skirts, they should wear short skirts. And I don't think that we should condemn them to say, if you are wearing a short skirt, then you'll be raped, or you deserve to be raped, or you deserve a teacher harassing you. It is wrong, and teachers are there to teach young people morals about a democratic society.
Yeah.
And in this democratic society, we don't accept men, and they should be punished, actually, if men want to rape women or want to abuse women because of the clothes they're wearing.
All right. Let me read some SMSs and take one or two calls here. There is an SMS that says, in my village in Mount Frere, a teacher slept nearly with the whole class, and this is no joke. Another one says, I'm old and white. It happened in our schools way back. It is more hidden. Let me take a call from Mamidi in Johannesburg. Good morning.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. Hi, I'm very well. Thank you for your call.
I'm fine. My comment is just that I'm a product of this kind of relationships, and then nothing has been done. I mean, I'm over 40 now, and it's still happening. So I don't know where are we getting with this.
Gee. So clearly it was happening more than 40 years ago. It still happens.
Yeah, it's still happening. Nothing. The council or the department is doing nothing. So I don't know.
Are you worried about it? Are you concerned? Does it concern you?
Yes, I'm concerned. It is concerning because I don't know what my mom's situation was at that moment. And at the moment, I can see that this is an abuse to children, to learners. So, I mean, it's concerning. And it's been happening over 40 years. That's my concern.
Mamidi in Johannesburg, I thank you for your call. Let me take Miki here in Johannesburg as well. Miki, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well. Welcome, Miki.
Thank you. I just want to make the point that the systems that are currently in place for dealing with sexual violence in schools are completely inappropriate for resolving these issues. I work at a law firm that deals with a lot of these issues, and we often come up against police who are refusing to investigate criminal cases against teachers, delays by both the GDE and SAFE, and secondary victimization of learners who are having to go through giving statements on 7 or 8 different occasions when their dockets are lost or the GDE feels they need to repeat something. I think we would be able to deal with this far more quickly and efficiently if there was one integrated system to deal with these issues in a way that prevented further trauma to learners and protected them from the actual processes in place.
Thank you very much. Well, Miki, if you say one integrated system, are you suggesting that these issues are dealt with separately? They're not dealt with as any other crime?
I think that these cases definitely are crimes, and I think they need such. But I think that the trauma suffered to learners from having to give statements to the GDE, having to give statements to SAFE, having to give statements to the police, being sent for medical examinations by all 3 of these organizations is impractical and unnecessary.
All right,
and I think if organizations and government departments worked more closely together and cooperated rather than passing the buck to one another, we would have a much better way to resolve these issues.
Thank you very much. I really thank you very much for your input, Miki in Johannesburg. Mr. Davo, let me ask you to respond to that, because I think this is very important, the victimization of learners and all the processes that are involved.
I need to agree with Nikki that something needs to be done. And I think on our part, with the Department of Education, we have started these processes of collaborating in terms of how do we deal with these matters in relation to investigations and conducting of hearings. But also we need to understand that there is a difference in terms of relationships between the department and the teacher, because their relationship is more based on an employment kind of relationship. And the relationship the teacher has with SAYS, it's more of a professional relationship. But notwithstanding that fact, I think Nikki is putting a point that says for us to resolve these matters as speedily as possible, we would need to look at our processes and see how best these processes can complement each other so that we don't have to subject these learners to the trauma of appearing in 3 different kinds of situations. But those are matters that I think we would need to really look at and say, how best do we deal with them going forward?
All right, I think it's an important point, and I hope people will raise it again so that we discuss it in detail. But for now, I need to ask Mashawule in Pretoria, Chris in Eastern Cape somewhere, as well as Peter in Grahamstown to hold for me.
The Forum at 8 with Xolani Gwala.
Right, we're taking your calls then on 0891 104 208. Mashawule in Pretoria has been holding for a while. Good morning to you, Mashawule.
Xolani, how are you doing?
I'm very well. Thanks for holding for me.
Nice talking to you. Tolan is very simple. You know, you can be educated, you can have master's, doctorate, but if you are immoral, you are really in a big trouble, because it doesn't matter how educated you are. Once you are immoral, then you are in trouble. It doesn't mean that when a woman is wearing a miniskirt, she's saying, "Come and sleep with me." Does it mean that those guys who sleep with the girls because they are wearing miniskirts, can they sleep with their daughters who are wearing miniskirts? That is immorality. And the other thing is, I think the Department of Education should workshop teachers the impact that HIV can cause or does for the nation, because really there's AIDS here. And then once you have a teacher who sleep with the kid, that the kid will end up becoming incompetent, because she'll understand that I'm going to get 3 marks from this guy. Understand? But the fact that people are sleeping with women because they are wearing miniskirt, like what these taxi drivers are doing to miniskirt women, is wrong, because you can't sleep with your daughter because she's wearing miniskirt. Once you are immoral, you can be educated, and then once you are immoral, that means you won't understand what is the difference between the right and the wrong. Simple.
All right. Mashaule in Pretoria, thank you very much. Let me read 1 or 2 SMSs and go back to the lines. Somebody says, a teacher failed me for having been involved with the same girlfriend in the 70s. T. A. Josie. Another one says, girls should wear correctly through school rules like in other countries. Another one says, the solution for our poor and sexually adventurous adolescent youth daycare is to teach... this is incomplete. Schoolgirls in Bloom put absurdity or absurdly short skirts. Another one, please don't forget that there are those females who wear provocative clothes. For it's like the learners somehow tend to emotionally and sexually harass the teachers. Action speaks louder than rhetoric. How are teachers screened? Ethic prevails, says another SMS. Let me go to Chris in the Eastern Cape. Hello, Chris.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm fine. Welcome.
Yeah, I just want to touch briefly on what one of your guests said, and it's about local parentals. And really, I think the whole social-moral fiber of our society has changed in South Africa. I know for a fact that previously, no matter what, if you see an adult and you're misbehaving as a kid anyway, that adult had every right to rebuke you, whether they were your parent or not. And that doesn't happen anymore in our society. I don't know whether it's because of our constitution or what. But the fact of the matter is teachers are abusing their authority, they are abusing their economic or social status, and that's exactly what happens to our kids. And the other thing is, us as parents, we are failing as well to kind of come in and, rebuke our kids. Some of the clothes you see our kids wearing to school, you really wonder, hey, my daughter, is she safe? Is she ever going to be safe in class? Especially with, the kind of teachers that are around. And then lastly, Kolani, I think there's also a sense of protectionism amongst the teachers. People don't want to expose those people, and yet they know they are doing the wrong thing. Okay. So I think those are really important issues which need to be addressed by the department.
All right, Chris in the Eastern Cape, I thank you. Perhaps just on the back of what Chris has been saying, an SMS also saying that teachers come from the society that says nothing when underage girls fall pregnant, because effectively society should be condemning these matters. Let's hear now from Shoni here in Johannesburg. Hello, Shoni.
Hi, Polani. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I'm good. Actually, I've got 2 comments. Yeah. One about the girl in... I think that let's not propagate an immoral society where an adult is able to look at a child in a short skirt and think beyond that. I think it's a bit obscene in my heart. I'm not comfortable about it. But my other issue now is that what worries me, the society tends to hide these things. The parents, where they know that their kids are going out. But our lawmakers hasn't enforced the statutory rape law. Because every child giving birth to a child, the father there's got to be some legal action taken against that person. And that's not happening currently. This is the cases where we have evidence that there's an adult involved in a child. Okay. I know some cases kids are together, but for those cases, that's where all those teachers will be taken to court and pay the price. Otherwise, as long as that law is not enforced.
All right, Shoni in Johannesburg. I'll ask Mr. Ndlovu to comment on that, because the issue is whether or not SACE then takes these matters up with the prosecuting authorities. If you have people that would have committed statutory rape, do you as SACE then make sure that those matters are taken up by the prosecuting authorities? I'll get a response from Mr. Ndlovu in a second, but let me read this email from Veli that says, some girls involved in sexual relationships for money, others as a result of poverty. How then can this problem be solved in circumstances where there is no abuse as proof? There's another email that says, okay, let me look at this particular one from Archbishop Buisile Western Kwenene. The root cause of this filthy behavior is the law that denied parents the right to punish their children. In most cases, these girls seduce these teachers. Peter in Grahamstown, hello.
Kolani, thanks very much.
You're most welcome.
I could ask you two very rhetorical questions, but I'll just say them anyway. You obviously don't want to waste your time on the show, nor do you want to waste the listeners' time. So I've made a suggestion before. I don't know if I normally tape what I say, but I'm actually sitting in town in my car at the moment. What I've suggested that is done, and I want you to try this out on your guests, ask them if it's a good suggestion, and come back to the issue. Simply have a sealed box sealed by the police at each school. Make it mandatory that each school has a box at the school, and it is opened by the police once a month, say, and that even past issues are put into this box. And you're looking at a very serious situation here, because it's lack of respect by the teachers for the pupils, and it affects education. It would have a dramatic effect on education if you saw actual prosecutions, because you're looking at a crime here. It's basically statutory rape. Now, it goes without saying that you wouldn't like your daughter, if you have one. I've got 4 daughters, and I would certainly have reacted very, very seriously if a teacher molested. It's basically a criminal to molest a child at that stage. It affects the child totally. It affects society. It's affecting our education system. So get these boxes at schools monitored by the police, because the criminal justice system is failing us once again, because the police know about this. They should be getting up and doing something themselves. No matter how much time has taken place between one of these offences and now, it's still a crime. Whether it's years ago that those teachers are still teaching. They must be got out of the system. Decent people must be got back to teach our children so we can have a decent society in South Africa. And education will benefit enormously from this.
All right, Peter, you want a box where pupils can report pretty much anonymously, right? The box that will be looked at by the police. That's Peter in Grahamstown. I'll take more calls. 0891 104 208, 0891 104 208. Mr. Ndlovu, firstly, let me ask you about whether or not SACE actively takes these matters up with the prosecuting authorities.
Thanks, Kolani. Actually, that's what we do. When we conclude our matter or a case, or when we receive a report that we feel as SACE needs to be taken up with the law enforcement agencies, we refer those cases to the police for police to continue their investigations. That's what we do. Meaning that whilst we also are running our own processes in terms of dealing professionally with the teacher, the criminal act that has taken place needs also to be dealt with simultaneously with our processes. And therefore, it says we do report and forward these matters to the law enforcement agencies.
There is a suggestion coming from Peter Wiley in Grahamstown, who says put up a box maybe in schools. What do you think about that suggestion, firstly?
I think it's a whole lot of issues that we need to look at, Kolani, here, in terms of how do we keep these situations. Maybe what Peter is suggesting can be but part of the whole program that we need to do. Because as Dax was indicating earlier, that I think where lies the problem is how do we break the silence? How do we ensure that the broader society is able to talk about these things, is able to come to the fore in terms of reporting these matters? Because I can safely indicate to yourself and the listeners today that one of the most frustrating part of dealing with this issue is how parents conduct and respond to our investigation in these matters. Because one of the things that we have picked up is that these teachers who are conducting these activities are quick to run to parents, promise them whatever, and parents become very reluctant actually to release their learners to our processes, to bring their kids to come to the fore in terms of giving evidence and in our hearings. That becomes a bit of a problem. And our call, as says at this stage, is that the whole of society has to take responsibility for these matters, has to ensure that in order for us to stop this rot, the parents, learners, teachers, and the broader society must come to the fore. More importantly, our parents must play an active role in ensuring the protection and the safety of their kids who go to school. By when getting these reports from the learners, they bring them to our attention, they bring them to the attention of the department, and they don't succumb to any pressure from whatever quarter, either through bribery, either through threats, because some of them come to us and indicate that we're being threatened, we are being promised heaven and earth so that we don't proceed with the cases. We are saying, as says, that
Yeah, go ahead.
if parents continue doing that, I don't think we're going to be able to win this battle. So when I come back to the box issue, kids can drop these things in the boxes. But if they don't get the support of the parents in pursuing the matters, the boxes would be, to me, a futile exercise. And therefore, it is important that our parents understand that the role of bringing up children is a core responsibility.
All right, let's give parents and members of society another chance to really call us this morning, talk about this matter. What are your experiences? What are some of the frustrations that you encounter? Do you know of teachers in your locality that have done these things and perhaps are just walking about scot-free? Nobody does anything to them. 0891 104 208 this morning, 0891 104 208. Let me read an email, get SMSs, and then get more comment from Mataganya here with me in studio. Somebody says, in fact, it is Zanele Mhlegude here in Gauteng, who says, the topic you're discussing this morning is long overdue. Most parents keep quiet when their girls are involved in sexual relationships with teachers simply because they are poor and they have high hopes that those teachers will provide money and marriage. Such teachers are unprofessional and they should not be allowed to teach. No other countries in the world tolerate this, and the education department is very slow in dealing with this shameful behavior. I hope SAFM will bring up this discussion more often so that we can follow with these with the progress, if there will be any. Of course, we are more than willing to do that. And also just get people involved in as far as this discussion is concerned. SMS, somebody says, hi, charity begins at home here. What do parents say to a child dressed up inappropriately? We're getting a lot of these. Somebody says, many of the SMSs seem to suggest that if a girl wears a short skirt, it's her fault. And I think that's what we should be discussing. Department of Education should workshop teachers on morality and HIV prevention, says another SMS. Let me take Ntabi Singh in Johannesburg, then get a comment from my guest here in studio. Ntabi Singh, good morning.
Good morning, Kolani. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for your call, Ntabi Singh.
Yes, I just have two short comments. The first one is that there is a lack of understanding in terms of the educators and principals at the school on what exactly there is to do. Because learners, where I work, we actually deal with some of these cases, report it to educators, and educators don't report it to the proper authorities. Therefore, they lose faith in actually reporting it to principals and teachers. The second part is, when it comes to protection of these learners, it's very hard for them to get protection orders, especially against the teachers who've done this to them, because they sometimes live in their communities and can have easy access to them. The Domestic Violence Act, of course, prescribes a protection order, but however doesn't protect them because there isn't a domestic relationship between the learner and the educator. So it's sometimes very hard for a person to report this without protection and proper investigation from the educators, the principals, and of course SAFE as well as the GDE.
All right, Ntabi Singh, I thank you for your comment. Faisal is in Mayfair. Good morning. Faisal, have I lost your call? I think I've lost that line. And talking about losing lines, I lost Yolisa Dwane's line, Yolisa with Equal Education. I think there's a problem with the phone there because we've been trying to call her back and the line is, in fact, the phone is off now. Anele is in Pretoria. Good morning, Anele.
Good morning, Tolani. I think the issue for me, Tolani, of the people raising the issue that kids dressed in a suggesting manner, it's rather so immature. Even though I would want to participate in a debate one day that would, where we would be dealing with the issue of how really our kids are dressing, that I would want to participate. But today I don't think it has got a space. The issue that I want to raise, Tolani, is that teachers who are professionally trained, who know what are they at school for, can't take a swipe in the fact that children are dressed in a manner where they are wearing short skirts and thighs are all out. It's just a pure sexual exploitation by teachers who use kids who are vulnerable, more especially in rural areas. It happens a lot. I know a school in Lusiki district where a teacher did not only impregnate one child in a class, Tolani, he impregnated about 5 kids in one class, and those learners knew Uguti, all of them, they're actually being sexually exploited by this one teacher. And what did the department do? Nothing. What did SACE do? Nothing. What did the union do? Nothing. It took us, which happened to be known by one of the learners, to go and confront that teacher and demand that something must be done. But if we did not do that, there would have been nothing that would have been done. These are teachers who are so sexually hungry, who are so sexually bankrupt, who can't even look at kids and impress or inspire them to be like them. That's why teaching these days is so looked down and it's so insinuated by people, because people who are professionals, who are in that profession, do not hold the profession of high regard as it should and as it was in the past.
All right, Anel is in Pretoria. I'll take more calls, 0891104208.
The Forum at 8 with Xolani Gwala.
Tammy in Johannesburg, Mpo in Pretoria, Dogan in Joburg. I'll take your calls in a moment, but Ntate Matagan.
I just want to quickly reiterate what I earlier on said, that parents must rise, because there are policies in place and these policies are not working for us. But what must strengthen these policies, I believe, are parents. Parents must get closer to their children, discuss whatever happens in the school, so that if a teacher advances to a child, that this child will be able to talk to the parent, and the parent must be able to raise it with the authorities that be. One open is through the Department of Education, and another line could be South African Council of Educators. And if they don't, because I know that SACE also fails us at some stages. You know, there's a case in Soweto. It was reported to SACE, and up to now I don't know what has happened to that case. In one school in Denny, this case was reported, and they came to National Association of School Government, and this case, then National Association took it up with SACE. We don't know what happens. So I think what will strengthen all these policies that are in place are parents to rise. Now, there's this question of miniskirts. It's true that I agree with that person that said it is not, today is not a platform for that. But what we are saying is that now it opens us to discussion in future. To say we want to call upon the current elections of school governing bodies to say there is the issue. When you go into office by the end of this month, then you have to come with policies that will govern the behavior of the children, and policies that will govern how the children come to school, how did they wear when they come to school. I think there must be a policy where you stipulate really that now our children are our children, and this is how they must behave in school. So it is not really a platform today to discuss the miniskirts and all those things, but we are just saying the school governing bodies that are coming into power must ensure that really and truly when we go to school, then we are school children. When we go to school, we are teachers and we are parents.
Okay. All right, let me take some calls and then we'll get closing remarks here. Let me start with Tommy here in Johannesburg. Good morning, Tommy.
Good morning, Xolani, and good morning to the listeners.
Thank you for your call.
Look, I wanted to just begin by saying the level of blame game in this country is really sickening, especially by those who are entrusted with the responsibility of taking the next generation forward. But I think this country also needs to discuss quite at length the question of the prevalence of pedophilia as a practice. And I know that we keep saying this is a crime, but it's possible that we're also dealing with a disease. And I think it also talks to how we screen teachers, both males and females. Because this may then relate to this question of miniskirts and all of those. And I know there is a lot of debate that one could advance in terms of the miniskirt. But I think let's deal with the child. Yeah. There is the issue of the child which is central here. And if I, as a parent, as a dad, can allow my child to leave home with with a dress code which is compromising. What am I saying? But I think let's also discuss the question of pedophilia and how we screen those people who spend the majority of time with our kids, and I think we'll be able to advance and move forward a lot better.
Tammy, I appreciate your call in Johannesburg. Mpo is in Pretoria. Hello, Mpo.
Yes?
Yeah, hi, welcome.
Thanks, man. I've got two comments. The one is, we live in a very sick society. Look, and I know that there's too much focus on these things happening to kids at the level of primary school and secondary school, but we see it happening right through to tertiary level. But then the second comment is that now that the government wants to privatize our roads and everything else that they think about, why can't they just privatize the education system? Because if you look at it, and I can vow that most of the people that are commenting in this program today, their kids are in private schools. And you never see these things happening in private schools. Why can't they just privatize the
I'm not sure about that, Mpo, pedophilia, if you take what Tammy is saying, pedophilia is across the board, actually. Private, public, there's pedophilia right across. You know, I'm saying pedophiles are to be found across the board. Private, public, it doesn't matter.
Black.
Yeah, white, black, it doesn't matter. Pedophiles are just to be found across the system. Anyway, I get your point. Thank you very much, Mpo in Pretoria. Dogan is in Johannesburg. Hello.
Hi, it's Lani. I'd just like to make comments on the worrying number of listeners who are commenting on, you know, the immorality of the young women who are going to school in short skirts. You know, the problem with this argument is that it denies the power relationships, particularly of patriarchy, and it shifts the blame to the young girls and frames the men as being driven by their sexual desires, uncontrollable sexual desires, this natural drive for sex. And really, it's problematic because it removes the responsibility from the men. And while there are women who are involved in this, they're very few and far between. We really need to start looking at a broader societal issue of patriarchy and this view that men can't control their sexual desires. This is an argument that comes up in rape cases regardless of the context. And it's really, really worrying and problematic. And this is one of the reasons why it's so difficult to deal with rape in our judicial system, in our schools, in our workplaces. And I'd really like to suggest that there's an honest conversation in the country about patriarchy and sexual power.
Very important point. Dogan, I really appreciate your time and your call this morning. And Mr. Ndlovu, please pick up on what Dogan is saying. Because, again, it's shifting the blame, is it not? To say that, no, it's these kids' fault because they come there with these short skirts.
I think, Kolani, as all other listeners and the commentators have raised this matter of the short skirts, I think it needs the debate on its own. But truth be told is that whether kids are wearing short skirts or long skirts, a teacher in front of a learner is a parent. Because our sense is that some of the teachers have their own kids who leave their homes in short skirts, 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 in short